Hey there gamer guys and gals, I'm Richie and welcome to IG Critic. Tom Hardy is set to play Eddie Brock in Venom's own movie, and all Marvel true believers are geeking out.
Harder. Venom.
Venom is such a strong Marvel character, and he has become such a staple in comic book history as one of the most significant villains. I suppose what really makes him stand out is just how twisted he is. Like you've got Spider-Man, and you know he's the hero. He's the big shot. He's the one that does good and does right. And then you have Venom, who's just this slightly warped, smeared version of Spider-Man. The lethal protector. The one who's on the side of good, but not quite in the right way. I think it's the fangs. I think they put some of the good guys off. Venom is such a great character in comic book history, and we are here to talk about what would make a really good Venom game. Venom has had many appearances in lots of Marvel superhero video games, but he's never had his own solo video game adventure. With the promise of a new movie, will he get his own game to coincide with it? Now, when it comes to video games based on movies, there aren't many successes.
Isn't this sweet? Just like in the movies.
There are a few that I certainly love, but I have to admit, there aren't that many of them. So we're here today to ask ourselves, what would that be like? How would Venom stand out and prove that he is relevant and worthy to stand among the pantheon of anti-heroes today? How would that feel to step into the symbiotic suit that is Venom on a virtual platform? Now with the upcoming Spider-Man PS4 game, developers have proven that they're not adverse to creating original story content for our favourite superheroes. So why couldn't Eddie Brock have his own original story, based upon the pillars that build up the Venom mythos? I need to stop doing this. I don't know why, but talking about Venom makes me want to do like the spider pose. The first thing we need to talk about if you really want to get Venom just right is Eddie Brock.
Where, what a wuss. Hey, wanna race? Parker hates it when I get the drop on it.
In the modern age, the Eddie Brock Venom is an anti-hero. He's all about justice, but his own brand of justice. Laws do not really matter to him. What matters is protecting the innocent and making sure evil gets put in its place. Though he is a self-proclaimed protector of the innocent, he doesn't have the same moral compass as Spider-Man. Justice is his guideline, not the law. Even though his origin story portrays him as a villain, even after all his different experiences and revelations and character breakthroughs, he still tends to reflect this idea of a warped, twisted Spider-Man. Venom is more than just the symbiote suit. When they are together, it's always we are Venom. There is no I, there's no Eddie, there's no symbiote. It's we are Venom. They came together in their darkest hours. The symbiote had recently been rejected by Peter Parker for the second time, only wanting to aid him, to help him, to boost his strength, to help him be the ultimate hero that Spider-Man could be. How's that for gratitude? Eddie Brock had been going through tough times too. He had lost his wife, he'd recently lost his career, his journalistic integrity was in tatters. Even in the early days, Eddie Brock had to deal with his own inner turmoil. He always continued to strive for success, but he always continued to lose it all. And when this happened with Spider-Man, it was just too much for him. When all seemed lost and Eddie had nowhere else to turn, he turned to religion. He went to church and he prayed and he prayed, and his prayers were answered from on high. Literally. Peter had forcefully removed the symbiote from himself by standing next to a church bell as it rang. Symbiotes and sonics do not mix. Loud noises are one of its few weaknesses. After being torn and ripped from and rejected by Spidey, the first person it found was Eddie Brock. Eddie hated Spider-Man, the symbiote hated Peter. It was a match made in hell. Since that time, Eddie Brock has continued to go through his own personal suffering, with and without the symbiote. His ex-wife committing suicide, his own suicidal thoughts, his battle with cancer, and let's not forget seeking his own redemption. No matter what's going on in Eddie Brock's life, he is continuously striving to prove his worth. No matter what anyone else thinks of him, his way is the way. They are partners. It's Brock and the symbiote. The physical abilities of Spider-Man for the alien parasite, and the mental and physical fortitude of Eddie Brock. Since their union, Eddie has been a villain, he's been an anti-hero, a lethal protector as the saying goes. And he did this all with Spider-Man's powers as well as his own unique abilities. Which brings us to the next thing that would be really important in the gameplay of a Venom video game. The symbiotic abilities. The symbiote grants its bearer all the powers of Spider-Man. Web swinging, wall crawling, webbing, agility, super strength, and according to a comic in 1994, upload itself onto the internet.
Surf the web, surf the web.
Shut up, Brock, we don't have time.
The symbiote even picked up the ability from Spidey to laugh in the face of danger.
Shut up and let us eat you! See? Isn't this fun?
But the very nature of the symbiote adds its own unique elements into the mix. For example, its shape-shifting abilities. Even Peter Parker was able to utilize it to change his clothing. The symbiote would morph into any clothing its wearer could imagine. Think of it, you'd never have to go clothes shopping again. Not only that, when it completely covered its host, it was able to camouflage itself, to change colours almost to the point of near invisibility. And I'm not sure how it did this one, but it was able to ingest items and hold them within itself without adding mass to the costume. Now that one's really handy for gamers. Altering mass is a key component in the symbiote's natural abilities. It can increase its size and alter the density of its appendages to form shields, whipping tendrils, and can turn itself into a looming toothy blob for a hard-hitting, solid impact. Also in the comic books and video games, we have seen instances of the symbiote duplicating itself and latching onto other people to subjugate its foes. By sharing pieces of the symbiote suit, it can overwhelm the minds of other people, creating an army of willing thralls. Thralls which can wander undetected in human form, or charge into battle armed to the teeth with spider symbiotic might and animalistic instinct.
Kids, come meet Parker. Show Parker how much we love him.
As part of its shape-shifting ability, the symbiote can form tendrils to reach out and grab objects. In the Marvel vs. Capcom fighting games, Eddie can swirl the symbiote around himself in a flurry of tendrils and teeth. He can unleash his tendrils to ensnare enemies, drawing them to himself for close-range damage, and also form other weapons like spikes and blades on occasion. An extension of this is that it can shoot out solid projectiles of itself to cause ranged damage. And let's not forget the obvious but slightly creepy, the teeth and the tongue.
Have we ever figured out why you need so many teeth? The better to eat you with.
The tongue, which seems to be extendable and nasty. I don't know how it does damage, but to be honest, I wouldn't want that thing touching me either. And let's not forget, Eddie Brock has his own strengths that he can contribute to Venom. He was a bodybuilder, and the symbiote can augment its host's natural strengths. Eddie Brock was a journalist, so he has the mental attributes of an investigator, researching facts and figures and finding out who to put the smackdown on. Augmenting his bodybuilding, Eddie Brock is even stronger than Spider-Man with the help from the symbiote. And he doesn't need any web shooters either. That webbing, it's organic. How does he produce that stuff? And also in the comics as well, we've seen that he has slight protection from poisons and anything with toxicity. As well as enhanced durability, the symbiote can heal damage to its host. It's not as good as Wolverine's healing factor, but it is able to effectively protect its host from the effects of minor diseases, drugs, and poisons to a certain degree. As it turns out, before Eddie bonded with his other, he had cancer. the effects of which were nullified by Spidey's costume cast-off. As long as they were bonded, the cancer was nullified. Nullified, but not cured. Boosted immune system. Never a bad thing. The symbiote can protect its host from bullets, blades, but not fire. It's not very good with fire. Weaknesses that Venom needs to avoid to maintain his strength are sonics and fire. The molecular makeup of the alien suit is destabilized by high-pitched loud noises such as a church bell ringing and fire. You better hope he never comes up against the Human Torch. That being said, enemies utilizing these elements are a must to provide a challenge for Venom's formidable abilities. Other things we'd like to see in a Venom game. Oh yes! Characters and cameos. Though Venom originated in the Spider-Man series, he's gone on to create his own mythology and own characters that have spawned from him. For example, Carnage! You can't talk about Venom without mentioning Carnage, the spawn of Venom's symbiote bonded to Cletus Cassidy to create one of the most psychotic serial murderers in comic book history. Carnage is an insane serial killer who Venom hates with a vengeance. The union of psychopath Cletus Cassidy and the spawn of the Venom symbiote created something stronger, blood red, and infinitely more deadly. These two have a vendetta against each other and have faced off multiple times, with Brock barely being able to hold his own. Needless to say, Carnage is as dangerous as his name implies, even when compared to Venom. There are times when Brock didn't have the symbiote at all, and there was the birth of anti-venom.
You had no reason.
I didn't need a reason, other than to make it easier to kill you.
If Venom is the sickness, anti-venom is the cure. In fact, that is anti-venom's main ability. The anti-venom white blood cells cured Eddie of his cancer and is capable of disposing of any disease or malady. On top of that, it is poisonous to the Venom symbiote, causing it pain on contact and eventual corrosion. Eddie Brock was just as dangerous to Spidey as anti-venom, if not more so, as anti-venom could drain and nullify all of Spidey's powers. It's a big comic book arc, but long story short, Eddie is now rebonded with the Venom symbiote and Flash Thompson is now the new anti-venom. He has clashed with Spider-Man time and time again, and even allied himself with him when the need arose. There are other people besides Parker and Brock who have enjoyed a pairing with this alien parasite, each giving the suit a unique style. Other hosts the symbiote has bonded with include Mac Gargan, aka the Scorpion. He was dangerous, but ultimately weaker than Eddie. At one stage, Flash Thompson as Agent Venom palled around with the Guardians of the Galaxy. He had a very military look, but he also gave the symbiote a stellar makeover. Eddie's wife for a time was gifted with a portion of the symbiote, creating She-Venom. It did not end well for her, pushing her to live in a constant state of incapacitating fear until her suicide. Even Wolverine has been bonded, both on page and screen, and if he's the best he is at what he does, the symbiote only makes it worse. Stan Lee. It's not Marvel if Stan Lee does not have a cameo. Nuff said. And of course there's not just the Spider-Man family. Practically every Marvel superhero lives in Manhattan. You could have any other Marvel cameo in a Venom game. Heck, throw Wolverine in there. He's good for a laugh.
You don't say.
He's even had multiple tie-ins to the government, who are desperate to get their hands on the symbiote and use it for their own means. You can never trust the government, they're always up to something. The alien background of the symbiote. The symbiote species has quite a spotlight in comic books in the recent years. There's been the Venomverse, the stint with Flash Thompson in Guardians of the Galaxy, and that weird time when there were two Venoms and one of them was puking venom goo onto other mafia hitmen to take control of their minds. It's a weird story, but it's a jolly good read. We had Web of Shadows, where the Venom symbiote duplicated itself rapidly and nearly took over the whole of Manhattan. Yet the backstory of the symbiotes have never really been explored on a video game format. We've seen Ultimate Spidey's first encounter of the symbiotic kind, but never have we heard anything about the origins of the symbiote itself. In comics, yes, if you read a lot of comic books, you probably know a lot more than I do. So please tell me what you know in the comment section below, because I absolutely love Venom and I want to know everything. What is a symbiote's true objective? What's its reason for being? Apart from being a symbiotic parasite, what is its deeper goal? Does it even have one? Does it intend on global domination? Or is it sightseeing? Or maybe it just wants to find that special person for that perfect bond? It goes without saying that the Venom symbiote is a little unhinged, which is not surprising after all the mental abuse it's had to endure from Peter Parker. They were so compatible, they were such a good match that the symbiote was able to copy Spider-Man's powers and retain them to be utilised by future hosts, a feat that we have never seen mimicked by any other example of symbiosis. The Carnage symbiote in comics has possessed the Silver Surfer, but he's never gone around again passing on cosmic radiation to other people. There have been other examples of symbiotes fusing with other superheroes, and even Venom himself from time to time, but yet he has never retained another hero's superpowers, nor has any other symbiote. The Venom symbiote is exceptional in this. A symbiote copying a hero's powers has never been repeated since. Those were just some of the things we would like to see in a Venom video game, but there is so much more to this character and the world he lives in that could be incorporated to make a really spectacular adventure. Thank you for watching this video. If you love Venom as much as I do, then please give a thumbs up and subscribe to hear more from us here at IG Critic. If there's anything that you would love to see in a Venom game, or you just want to talk about the character and share your favourite Venom moments in comic book history, or indeed video game history, then please write it down in the comments section below. As the saying goes, everyone's a critic. I'm Richie, see you next time. Thank you for watching IG Critic. If you enjoyed viewing it as much as we did making it, then please remember to give a thumbs up, share, and subscribe. For more on video games, feel free to check out our other content here on YouTube and over on igcritic.com.